And now for another fast-breaking news story, we go to our roving reporter.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, Monday special report and video I wanted to do, and you know, there's a reason. I was scrolling through some posts on the Tubular Lantern group recently, and I saw a newer member posting a restoration type of project, and they were asking about how to disassemble a cold blast lantern and how to disassemble the chimney and the baffle and all that stuff. And you know, they got a lot of comments, and I weighed my opinion in there as I have been known to do. And a lot of the people were also saying that it's not really necessary. Now, when does it come to the point where you want to disassemble something? Well, in most cases, you kind of don't. Now, of course, if you've seen something that looks like it came off the Titanic, if it's that rusty, I guess maybe you want to take things down as far as you can. Now, I would say sometimes we find things that maybe are beyond saving. Okay? Now, I like a good challenge. I've had a few. Others have had more challenges, but sometimes, you know, it might be beneficial to know when not to save and when what to save. Now, it gets a little, you know, cloudy. Some people have the idea that, oh, I have to save this and I have to disassemble the entire thing and put it all back together. That takes a lot of work, and I admire those people that want to do that, especially when it comes to an antique car or aircraft or something like that, or even an antique radio or appliance. You know, that there's some times that you want to do that, and it's beneficial for the item, the object, the piece, if you will. But in tubular lantern worlds, I'd say it's not always necessary. Now, here's a lantern I'll share first off that was kind of a basket case. I'll drop it right in here. It's a number 2 Dietz Wizard, well, 1915-16 era, right around there. And, well, as you can see, it was plenty rusty. It had a lot of surface rust on it, and actually a lot of people might even think it was beyond saving. However, I found it up the street at a local estate sale, $5, and it had no burner and no cone. Now, I was a little bit silly and just assumed that it took a regular D-light burner and cone, and it would have been that was it. However, it was a little more complicated than that, because I wasn't familiar at the time with the Dietz number 2 Wizards, and this was in 2019 when I found it, and I was still learning. I was definitely still learning, and I found out that it took a 2-piece cone burner setup. So it originally had a rising cone that was machine pressed into the globe plate, and that was removed. As you can see, there was a socket, an old porcelain brass socket from the 1920s, an old Eagle with a CFL light bulb in it. So I removed all of that fairly easily, not a big deal, and then I started WD-40ing the whole lantern, and I scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed, and it didn't get to like shiny bare metal, and this is what I came out with. And this was in 2019, and it still looks the same. It still looks the same, exactly as when I finished it. But I did get a burner and a cone from 2 collectors on the group, and that would be Willis Miller III and John Morris. John Morris supplied the rising cone, and he sent it, and I pressed it back in with great success. And the burner is new old stock, and it still has nice tin on it, so it's a great replacement part, and it works perfectly. So of course, a big thank you to Willis Miller and John Morris for helping me with this piece back in 2019. And that's one of the other reasons why I keep this piece, is because, well, I found it up the street from me, and there was a few people that helped me restore it and put it back to working order. Now, would you say this is restored? Well, no, it's not restored. I take that back. It's not restored. It's been preserved. That's right. So I took the majority of the surface rust off, and I usually wipe it down with WD-40 to keep it nice and from progressing. Now, since it stays in the garage, it's not in threat of being consumed by rust, because if you take something out of a rusty environment, a high moisture environment, or being outside, it stops. It's not going to progress. If you leave it outside in a damp area, in an environment, then it will continue to rust, and you will get cancer, and then eventually the piece will be lost to consumption of deterioration and oxidation and everything. So it's been saved. It's been preserved. This is preserved, and you know, I didn't disassemble anything. I didn't take anything apart. I just you know, scrubbed it down, and it functions nice and smooth. Now you see there's a little bit of rust up here, and that's just from use and from hanging around. But as you can see, it's nice and smooth. And probably it's time that I give it a little more attention. Maybe I should, you know, hit it with some more WD-40 and all that. But do I need to take the whole assembly apart? No, not really. That's not necessary in most cases. Yeah, it's true. It's so funny about these early ones. The lift lock rarely stays up. Yeah. And, you know, that's the way it is. That's why they redesigned the lift lock a little bit with the reinforcements on either side soon after this era. This was made just during World War I. So, with that being said, this is a preservation piece. And it's preserved, and it's not going to get any worse. And it's going to serve me just as well as it did when it was brand new. Even though it has a nice dark brown finish to it, it's not going to continue to rust and rust away as long as I have it. I mean, you know, maybe someday it will rust away if somebody doesn't take care of it after I'm gone. But it's in good shape, and it burns wonderful. Absolutely. So the thing is, we see these videos on YouTube, and I there's good videos, and there's videos that I think give the wrong impression. And what do I mean by that? Well, there's videos that are really not restoring anything. And that was something that a member brought to the attention, was that there's videos out there that show a complete dismantling of a dirty, aged, rusty lantern. And a lot of the times, they put all the parts into this tray, and they use a chemical thing or whatever, and they hose it all off, and it all starts coming off, right? And it's gross, and it's dirty. Well, a lot of it's faux. And faux, I mean, it's applied. It's applied dirt, applied oxidation stuff. And you can get certain chemicals to put on metal, and it will give it a crusty age within a matter of a week or less. And so they'll do that to a piece just to show a restoration video. And they'll take everything apart and they do this stuff and then buff it all out with their little Dremels and stuff. And then it looks beautiful, right? It's pretty. And they put it all back together and like ding, you know, and it's all fast forward footage, so it's all fast and it makes it all look easy and looks fun. So it gives the idea that this is what you do. This is the professional method to cleaning up an antique piece. Okay, well, I have my own opinions about that. I'll hold back though, but you know, we do find things that do need a little more attention than not sometimes, right? Now, if you find a cold blast lantern that has a rotted out chimney, rotted out crown, or missing a crown, or things are all frozen, well, maybe you do want to take that apart. Maybe it does need to have replacement parts added. Now, it's a little tricky sometimes because there's tabs that you have to undo to pull everything apart, and there's a spring in there, and it gets a little crazy. So if you're a beginner, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe it's best that you don't do that because it's not going to go back together very well or very easily, or you might come to a stopping point and say, what did I do? I don't know what to do with this. And thankfully there's a lot of experts on the tubular group that have helped a lot of people put things back together that they didn't think they could. That's why there's a village for these things, you know. That's why there's a community. But like in case in point, in this wizard, all I did was just shoot a lot of WD-40 and oil down inside the chimney and the baffle, and it loosened everything up, and it's very smooth. It doesn't make any squeaks, and it operates just fine. It is, and you know, the inside of the fountain is surprisingly clean, and all you had to do was just add oil, and I had to get the parts, of course, outsource those parts, and she burns wonderfully, and she's a great piece. She has a nice patina to it, and I did scrub this thing down. As you saw, it was a basket case. It didn't look salvageable, right? And so I'll see some people post stuff that is very similar. And they're like, I think this is a lost cause. I'm like, actually, no, you might be surprised because these things are pretty hardy. And I've seen some beautiful things that were dipped in a lye bath or electrolysis tank that look pretty bad. Now, if you have a smooth finish like this, it'd probably come out smooth. However, if it's pitted, you're just going to have a lot of clean pits. And I don't think that look is my favorite. It's not my taste. So when it has a pitted finish to it and a lot of rust, then I just try and do a preservation of it without going too far so it doesn't look too forced. Now, can we really, truly restore an antique and make it look brand new? Some people get close. It will never be brand new again. No, it never will be. I've seen some people try to attempt re-tinning an old lantern. Sometimes it comes out nice, and you know, I think that's a lot of effort, but I don't think it's necessary. But I mean, if it makes the owner, if it makes the owner happy and they love it, then I guess that's worth it, right? But to the newcomers to the hobby and the novices, you don't need to dismantle an entire lantern to do a proper job. You really don't. It just takes lubricating and, you know, making things move freely, and just some gentle cleaning with a little bit of a WD-40 scrub down with a fine steel wool or even a green Scotch pad that's not too abrasive. And of course, the more you take off, the more finer methods you want to use so you're not scratching your finish or anything. But it's not really hard. It isn't. So, you know, something like this on YouTube, somebody would dismantle, take the lift wire off from the globe plate and completely off the lantern and dismantle the whole thing and, you know, attack it with, you know, Dremels and wire brushes and chemicals and all that stuff, and then put together, and it'll be cleaner and it will be functional just fine. But I think that's a lot of work for, you know, on something that's really not worth a whole lot of money. You know, I've seen some incredible stuff done with antique toys or antique appliances, or, you know, 19th century appliances or coffee grinders and stuff like that. And it can be really neat. But, you know, I think if you find something that's original and intact with really no rust and still has original paint and stuff like that, you don't want to do a full restoration. You really don't, because it's still an antique and it's in its state as it was when it was made. And of course it gained a little oxidation and some age and distress over the 100+ years. And maybe not everybody likes that. Not everybody appreciates that. But however, I will say, if you're truly into antiques, that would appeal. I think that look would appeal to you if you're really into antiques. You know, making everything brand new, it's not necessary. And for the folks at the antique roadshows, people bring in things that were restored, and most things are not as valuable after a full restoration as they would have left it original if they left it alone. If it's been in the family and handed down, and it wasn't beat up and it's just left alone, usually is worth more. That's usually my barometer. It is. But, you know, I guess it really boils down to how you want to enjoy the piece. Now, I am definitely firmly based in the camp of leaving something like this after a gentle cleaning. You know, it's smooth, it's not rough, and all you have to do is wipe it down with a little oil now and again, and it doesn't rust more. It doesn't get worse. No, it just stays the same, and you can burn it whenever you like, and it works fine. That's right. Of course, this was a bright tin originally when it was brand new. That's right. Now, we shared this just last week, but this is the Dietz Victor that I recently got from Steve Spalding, and this thing just hung. It was found in probably the 1950s or 60s by the antique dealers that originally had it, where my friend got it from, and it was hanging in a basement with other antique lanterns and a bunch of other antiques. And, you know, it was probably a little brighter when they found it, but it just gracefully aged. There's no rust on it. It's just dark patina. Yeah, there's maybe a little bit of rust there, but it's nothing chronic. It's not going to threaten the piece from anything. But it has a nice dark patina. You know, it's just darkened tin plate. And sure, it's possible to throw this in an e-tank or a live bath and it will come out much brighter. And it might look really pretty. However, it'll still not be brand new. And it won't be as pretty or new looking as it was in 1898. But then again, I like the way it looks. I like that it shows the age and it's not in danger of being consumed by anything, by nature or rust or any kind of oxidation. It's not in peril and it functions just right. You know, you just undo it and then you lift it up and it slides up and everything functions. Everything's good. So why do anything except for add fuel and burn it, you know? Just minor little things. I mean, yeah, this one does leak a little bit from under the tubes and I will have to figure a way to seal that from the inside. And I'm going to try and tackle that this week. However, as found, nice. This is a true antique. In my opinion, this would be worth more than it being overly cleaned up and presented as a, you know, restoration. That's my take on it. So, for those out there, just know that you don't have to dismantle something completely to give it new life, to breathe fire again, to enjoy it. I would say, you know, address some of the simple issues, lubricate it, get it working smoothly, operating smoothly, and clean the burner and put a new wick in it and maybe seal a hole or two if it's got such a thing, clean out the fount, and you're good to go. It really doesn't take a whole dismantling to clean a lantern, and I thought I'd touch upon that since we were talking about it in the group and offering a lot of good sound advice. So, because sometimes you can take things apart completely, and sometimes you can't put them all back together the same way. That's right. And like I was saying in my last video with that Victor, has a hinged burner cone. Sometimes I have to take the cone off because it's just too much in the way, but it's really difficult to get the bend back in that little wire hinge to clip on right, and it's just really difficult to get that crimped back tight enough as it was when it was made back in 1898 or whenever. So sometimes less is more. It really is. And I hope that you guys appreciate that. And I think some of you are coming around to that. But, you know, bright, shiny tin is nice when you find it. Some have found beautiful examples that are very, very well preserved. And a lot of people don't burn those examples because they're practically unburned. They're unfired. They're new old stock, if you will. So that's cool. I would definitely leave those as original as possible. You know, and then some people find mill lanterns that have aged old red paint as they were painted back in the 1910s and 20s and whatnot, and then they strip them and repaint them a bright fire engine red. And, you know, if that's your deal, if that's what you like, I suppose. But, you know, my sensibilities disagree because it's only original once. It's only original once, and there's something to be said about the aged paint because it shows that it lived, that it served somebody, it served a purpose, and it worked. You know, it tells the history, it shows the history. And I like firing those lanterns that have the aged distressed paint because I find that more interesting. That's right, I do. Anyone can paint anything a candy coated color, whatever, and sure, it's pretty and it sparkles, and that's fine. But being a historian and being into antiques for a long time, it's boring to me. It just is. It really just is boring to me. I find more interest in the patterns that nature has created with finishes and things like that. There's a little bit more, I don't know. For me, that's where my sympathies lie. Anyways, but there are good restoration videos out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not running anyone down personally. I'm a subscriber of Ken with Lots of Trains, and he's done a lot of great work. He's done necessary restoration to certain pieces. He's repaired things that were damaged, and he's done beautiful work. And so shout out to Ken. Great channel. I enjoy your videos, and you do great work. And, you know, also Scout Crafters out there. I haven't heard from Scout Crafters in a long time, but he does beautiful tool restorations, and he gets things working properly as they should be. And there's definitely guys out there that present good restoration or maintenance type of videos. But the ones that I was talking about are just, they just crank these things out. They get a lot of likes, a lot of followers, and they get this impression that every single thing has to be completely dismantled and put together back with a very high frame rate, fast forward type of situation. So you get the content within 20 minutes or less, and you see beginning and end, and that's satisfying. That is satisfying to some people to see rusty to brand new looking, and I see the appeal. I get it, I do. But just know, not all of those are legitimate. Those are pretend finishes. Those are pretend aged, dirty lanterns, and that's just all I'm saying. And like I said, not everything has to be dismantled completely, because they don't always go back together the same way, especially with aged metal and tabs that get bent and broken off. And just keep that in mind. So if you get something that's just needs a little cleaning, a little oil, just enjoy it. There's no need to dismantle everything that you find. That's not the standard. That's not the standard. It's not. So yeah, thought I'd touch base with that and kind of throw that out there and kind of address the elephant in the room, I guess you could say. So if you enjoy some of those videos, just understand that's their thing. That's what they do, and it's just to get likes and subscribers and all that stuff, and it definitely does work. It does. If you find a nice lantern at a swap meet or a flea market or antique mall, and it's within the realms of functioning with just maybe a little bit of oil, and it holds kerosene and everything, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. That's it. I'm done. We'll get back to your regular scheduled programming on Thursday, and we'll see you guys again at that point in time. So first, salute to those men and women in the armed forces. It is Veterans Day after all. So thanks again for your service and continuing to serve our country and keep us safe. All right. Have a good one. See you next time. Goodbye.